I would encourage anyone who's approaching the resume tailoring to see what are those one, two, or three roles that keep coming back that you find interesting. And then you can go ahead and create like a database of all the job descriptions that you come across in those specific roles. And that job description, you will start to see overlapping skills, overlapping keywords, overlapping pointers, and that's what you should use when you're tailoring your resume. Because when you're applying for jobs, a lot of the similar jobs will have similar like requirements, similar roles that you'll be doing. So if you track it over time and you're able to recognize those patterns, then when it comes to the job application, you don't necessarily have to tailor as much. You still need to tailor it according to the company that you're applying to, but you still have a good frame of reference and a good reference point to start off with. So that's what I recommend, is having those master resume and then breaking them up into the relevant jobs that you want to apply to.
You know, a starting point to a resume, because you know that, okay, you got to have your education, your work experience. It's kind of like you have a structure to follow. But with the
Right.
cover letters, I've noticed that there's like less structure in terms of like, oh, you need to have the same header as your resume, you need to have the name of, you need to address it to someone, things like that. But with
Yeah,
the actual content, I've noticed that it's a lot more fluid. So
absolutely.
so let's talk a little bit about cover letters and how like you think we should approach them.
For sure, absolutely. So cover letters again is your own personal story, so it will differ person to person. Every single person will have a different cover letter. There's no one right answer for how it should be done. What I love to do personally, and I've seen work really, really well, is adding stories or context to the accomplishments that you mentioned in your resume. So, resume, because it's short, doesn't allow you the space to talk about the exact process or your thought process or your personal contribution that led you to that outcome. So, cover letter is a really good space and a really good opportunity to talk about that. So, for
Mhm.
example, if the UBC podcast reached 200 people, then in the resume you would mention impacted 200 students. But in the cover letter, it gives you an opportunity to talk about the struggles that you went to or the exact process of the digital marketing that you followed that helped it reach 200 students. That's kind of the analogy that I would use to describe what should go in a cover letter. And in terms of formatting, what's worked really well for me personally is talking about three things. One is talking about why I want to work for the company. So that paragraph is often going to be most tailored. Um, yeah, that paragraph is the most tailored section of the cover letter. Second is why am I a good match for the company? This is where I'm talking about my skills, my experiences, and the value that I bring to the table. And then the third will be an open opportunity for like being, adding anything that you think your resume didn't include or wasn't even related necessarily to the job or you want to mention. So that's kind of what the process or the paragraph is, how I break it up into, and it's worked really well in the past.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out as well. And one thing that I think did help a little bit when I first started was that in Sauter we do this course called Com 202, right? So for those of you who aren't in Sauter, it's pretty much a career fundamentals course where they teach you like resumes, cover letters, networking, things like that. And so in a resume, the format you want to follow is a result, action, task, situation. So you start from the result and you move back into the situation, and that's one of the statements you put. But in your cover letter, you flip that and you go into situation, task, action, result, right? So it's called rats versus star. And it's exactly what you said. So in your resume, you want to keep it to the point. You just want to say what you did, like give the recruiters a bang for their buck and tell them, I did this. Maybe we made X amount of money doing that, or we increased efficiency by Y. But in your cover letter, you can add more context to it, saying that as a company, we were struggling with our retention rate for XYZ, and I went ahead, built a tool that took into account XYZ, and then it eventually got us to a result that put the company or the team in a better place than they were before I was there. And I think
Absolutely.
that definitely helps a lot because, very honestly, what I think is that there's people out there who could have resumes better than you, and chances are they will, right? But with your cover letters, when you add a story, I think that's where it's less about being better than the other person, but more of you
The
get to put
individual.
more of yourself into it, right? So your personality can really come through it. And one thing that I remembered as well when you were talking was that when I first started applying, my cover letters used to be like maybe three paragraphs. I had the short intro paragraph, which was like 2 to 3 lines. I had two body paragraphs, and then I had my conclusion. But over the years, so it's been about 2 years since I actually got into it, right? Applying for internships and stuff. It's become a lot shorter. So I might still have 2 or 3 paragraphs, but I'm way more succinct now than I was 2 years ago. And I'm sure that moving forward, I'll learn more how to do that. And I've noticed that that actually works better when I've been able to keep it more